Babylon, or this idea, or what it represents, is only going to, and I'm talking about this Western, liberal, democratic, capitalistic society that's all about exploitation, all about degradation, that has caused the worst humanitarian crisis in the world, that has been terrible towards everybody who's not from a specific milieu of people. These are the people. This system is not going to continue. It's not sustainable. It can't continue. The only reason why it has continued is because the alternative that has been presented has not been one that we have been fully invested in. And so when we were speaking earlier about what can we be able to do to cause us to rise above our current conditions, we have been participating in the maintenance of this society. We're holding it up. I watched this. I saw this picture one time, right? That there was a chessboard. Oh yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
He's just playing on top of his back.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
So now what?
All he has to do is stand up. Yeah.
All he has to do is stand up. That's why the rise of Jacob is the father of Esau, because when you're on a seesaw, the only way the one who's at the top could be able to come down is that the one who's at the bottom would have to stand up. It's our time to stand up, my brother.
Good people, what's up? What's good, y'all? I'm blessed to be your host, Caleb Smith. Today's guest, man, flew all the way in, second time on the platform, but first time in person, man. I always treasure that. Ashriel Moore, how you feeling, my brother?
My brother, Caleb, man, so good to be here with you, my brother. And I'm feeling extraordinary, had the opportunity to be able to come and to really interface with a lot of our brothers and sisters out here, going through D.C. and Houston, and now we're in Atlanta.
Yo, you hit up all the black cities in America. I love it.
We're going to see our people.
Indeed.
We're going to see our people, share the information, the good news, about what it is that we're doing on that side of the world. And it's just a great opportunity for us to be able to every chance that we get, to be able to share something with our people from home. From the land. That people don't really have that opportunity so often to actually speak to somebody from the land. Somebody who looks like us, somebody who understands the geopolitical terrain, somebody who's involved in all of the communities of African ancestry on that end, and somebody who really cares about scaling up, leveling up our communities wherever we are in the world. So I'm just happy to have that opportunity to be here with you, my brother.
Man, indeed, brother. From home, from the soil, right? So often, here in America, we can get caught up in being off the block in the city. But every Sunday, our folks used to go to church, read that Bible. How important, man, is it for us to realize and know our home is in Israel, and it's in a greater place opposed to just being here all the time?
The beauty of it is that when we went back home, right, we were actually the vanguard for our people, so we can be able to open up the way, right? But it was a move that was a providential move, because it wasn't nothing that we had actually initiated ourselves. If it was up to us, most likely we'll probably still be here. But it was a spirit of God that was moving during those periods of time that caused us then to be able to have that smoke screen to allow us now to be able to get out of America. Most people don't realize, Caleb, that America is a maximum security prison that is holding our people hostage, that prevents us from being able to do. You just look at the injustice system, by the way, where you could get a felony for something so simple and so small, and then you don't have the ability to even get a passport.
Can't vote.
You can't vote. You can't get a governmental job. You can't properly take care of your family. And you stuck. There's no way for you to be able to get out of this situation. And you probably did something so minor, so small, so insignificant. But for the system, everything that we do, as far as they're concerned, is of greater proportion. And so now we have had these gates put around us to prevent us from being able to actually get out of this place, get out of this prison, to allow us to be able to overcome the current circumstances of life that we have found ourselves in as a result of everything that we've experienced up until now. And so, yes, there is an awakening, and there was an awakening for us to now have our eyes set back to the promised land, right? Most people may not make it back to Israel. And most people may not make it out of North America, right? But at the least, we, I would say, have provided a platform, a foundation for our people to be able to look at and take inspiration from what it is that we've done on that side of the world, and we could be able to implement those things here. We can duplicate a lot of those ideas. And so when we look at the Bible, right, and we understand where our home is and the significance of it in our lifetime, we realize then that a lot of those things that are written in the Bible are written not only about us, but they're prophecies about things that are going to come. But not only that, at one point or another, we would have to then stop just reading the Bible and become the Bible. We can't only go back and reference 2,000 years ago for God intervening in our affairs. At one point or another, we'll have to be able to show a contemporary example of how God is moving through his people in order to be able to enact change in the world. If the only thing that I have, the last interaction or intervention that God has had in the affairs of men is what we could go back and to relate to from 2,000, 3,000 years ago, then there's a problem. Because it said that as I was with your fathers, so should I be with you. It didn't stop with Joshua. It didn't stop with the prophets. So there would have to be people who would continue to speak that message, to bring something to the people, because you see our condition. It's not like, we're in a position now that we're absolutely saved. We don't need anything else. We don't need any intervention of God. We have now found our way back home. All of us are living in accordance with the principles, and it's all good. So long as that, that is not the case, that means you would have to continue to have deliverers. You would have to continue to have prophets. You would have to continue to have those who have been inspired by the Spirit of God to be able to bring a message that will be able to help us to rise out of our current conditions. And so until we see that everybody have been delivered, then you need to be listening to those voices that are voices that are in alignment with a lot of the voices we've heard in the past. When Yeshua went up on a mountain and they were asking, who are you? And he asked, who do they say I am? And then the reference that they made was to prophets from the past. And the only reason why they made that reference to the prophets from the past was because he carried that same spirit. He carried a spirit that was in alignment with everything that had happened previously. So there's people who today also carry that spirit that is in alignment with everything that has happened previously. And all we want to do is to be able to share that great news. Now, we're not saying that we're the only ones, but whoever God has touched, you would be able to see that anointing on them. It took David 33 years before he actually assumed the throne of God. But David was the king. But to the carnal eye, Saul was still the one who was sitting on the throne. But David was the king. And so that's what we have to realize now. To the carnal eye, a lot of things look strange, look weird. But at one point or another, after we've already been anointed with that oil, you would be able to see those people who are shining a light of truth and providing an alternative way to what this world is speaking about right now. The only community that I know right now that is implementing that right now in real time is a community in Dimona that has really taken these things and put them into practice, implemented them, trial and error. We were the ones who had to, experience a lot of the unfortunate challenges of nation building, of leaving the current state that we're in right now to go and to build a new world that will be based on the principles that so we went to go establish the kingdom of God on earth. And the kingdom of God on earth only means, Caleb, that this would be a government of people, a society that will be built on all of those principles that we attribute to the God of Israel. When we say God is love, God is peace, God is justice, God is equality, God is omnipotent, God is omniscient. Every one of those attributes that we give to God Almighty, that was the desire that we had to establish a community that will exemplify that in real time, that you could be able to say, where is a place that is dedicated to these fundamental principles that could be able to give us an alternative to the life. And I'm speaking from home, from Dimona, that we have provided that for our people.
Man, hey, you're already starting off powerful, brother. King David's story, that's one of my favorite stories, in the Bible, hearing you talk about that, right? As a people, how do we find patience with having to wait for our time, for our throne, in the same way that King David had to go through so much of on the run for his life? He had to build on his own all those things before taking that throne. How do we find patience during these times as well?
You know, whenever God anoints people to do his will, to do his job, you would always come up against challenges, and you would always come up against people who are against you carrying out whatever the responsibility is that you've been given, right? And the patience would only come from us understanding that the task that we've been given is a task that is supposed to deliver a mass of people that is way greater than us as individuals or as small communities or whatever that may be. And so we would realize that at one point or another, things will begin to develop as they should, right? But it's a process for everything. In the same way that you don't go and plant a seed and then the next day you see the tree, you would have to nurture it. You would have to go through the procedure. You would have to go through the seasons. You would have to see things begin to germinate on a small level and then to begin to develop from there to a greater scale. But most times we don't have the patience because we want to see stuff happen, popcorn, as we say. And we live in right now in an age of instant. Everything happens immediately, right? Everything, whether the information is correct or incorrect, it's about who's the first person that puts it out there. It's about who's the first person. And that's not what's going to be the delivering factor for us, because we would have to go through the phases, through the seasons, just like everything else in the universe, everything else on this planet, everything else in creation. There are procedures, there are times, there are set times and set seasons for everything to develop. And so it's not on us. We don't need to find the patience. What we need to do is simply be in alignment with what our responsibility is. And then all of the other elements then will come and give us whatever is necessary to be able to shield us during that period of time to ensure our safety. King David had a bunch of opportunities to kill King Saul. And King Saul was chasing him for a long period of time, and he was trying to get him, right? But he had that shield around him. He was being protected because he had already known that you coming now into a realm where the people around you are not going to like the fact that you've been given a task that is greater, that is more awesome than others, right? You've been given a responsibility. I recall that I was speaking the other day with a brother, and he was sharing with me just about the story of Joseph, right? And he was saying that Joseph had a responsibility, right? When he shared about the vision that was given to him, the automatic response to that was a negative one, right? But he didn't know that he was being prepared to be in position so that when the famine comes to the land, that God will be able to then allow us to be delivered through him being positioned, right? The king called him in and said, I had a dream. I don't remember the dream, and I don't understand what the dream meant. So what I need you to do first is to tell me what the dream was or is, and then interpret that dream for me. What does that say in essence? He was thrown in a ditch. He went down, he was taken and sold. He experienced what he experienced with the wife of Pharaoh because he didn't want to sleep with her, right? He was thrown in jail. He came into contact with two people who had their own dreams. He helped them to be able to interpret those dreams. Man got out, forgot all about him, right? And until something came up, and then his name came up again. And then he went out and he did the work. So all I'm saying is that everything happens in its divine timing. We are placed in position perfectly for the time that we would need to be there to be able to do what it is that we need to do. And so the patient, we just have to do what we have to do. We just have to do what we have to do, and we have to be dedicated to it. You know the dream that you had. You know the interpretation thereof. Everybody else don't. But you got to hold the line. Because if you don't hold the line, then that means that you won't be in position later on to be able to do what is necessary to be able to deliver our people. Had Joseph given up Had he not listened to what he was inspired to do, had he shunned, the responsibility, then the children of Israel that were coming down there into Egypt to be able to have an alternative to what they didn't have in the land, they wouldn't have had that because of him, because he didn't do what he was supposed to do, because he wasn't patient enough, because he was frustrated because of everything that happened, because he was mad at his brothers because they shouldn't have never did that, because he was heartbroken by the fact that he was thrown in jail and he didn't even do nothing. You know what I mean? So all of these are the challenges that we'll have to endure and experience throughout the way. So we just need to hold the line. We just need to stay in alignment. However long it takes, at the end of the day, it's going to be for the good and for the benefit of our people. And so we don't need to find the patience. We need to just be. When God told Moses, just go down there and tell them I am. Tell them I am sent me or sent you. Who is I am? What is I am? Everything in the moment right now that's supposed to be is, has been, and will be, is in this current moment. Do what you got to do right now. Don't worry about the future. Do what you have to do right now, and then that'll then pave the way for later on, right? But let's do what we have to do now. And how many of us are actually doing what we need to do now? That's why we don't have the patience, because you're sitting around and you're not really active, right? Because when you're active, you don't have a lot of time to be thinking about the fact that the time is moving slow. You don't have a lot of time to be thinking about when are we going to get there already, because you're busy. You don't have enough time right now in the day to be able to do everything you need to do. You need some more hours. But if you have idle time, then that means that you're not working. And so all of those people who have time right now to spare, or they're looking to be patient because they sitting on the edge of their seat because ain't nothing going on, and they just waiting, they trying to see, they say that soup don't cook well when you watching it. You put it on and go about your business. You know what I mean? That's what we need to be doing right now, Caleb. We need to be working. We need to be active. We need to be going at it. We need to not have enough time in the day to even think about nothing else but the deliverance of our people. We need to be making sure that every moment of the day, we've already filled it up. The calendar is already filled with things that we need to be doing on behalf of our people. When you look up, the time would have, you'll be trying to figure out where did that time go, because you were so active. You were so busy actually calling things into, actually doing something. You're not just talking. You're not standing on the sidelines like we were talking about. You're actually in the game. And when you're in the game, it seems like the time is going, the time went by too fast, too quick. But when you're sitting on the bench, it seemed like, when am I going to get in the game? You know what I mean? It seemed like everything is moving slow. But as soon as we're active, as soon as we're working, that was just a long way to be able to say, get busy. Get in the game. Do something. Whatever it is, if you need to be the one who's delivering the water, do that and be the best at it. If you need to be the one who's assistant coach, do that and be the best at it. But whatever you do, get in the game, get busy, do something right now.
Man, bro, that was perfect. That was perfect. In these times, man, so much has happened, right? I remember like last November, right? Everybody's all eyes on Israel, right? Israel, Palestine. And it's so crazy because here in America, everybody's thinking like, man, that's crazy. But now, a few months later, everybody's looking at America, right? We have so much that's going on, that's happening.
Yes, sir.
As a person that's coming from all the way from Dimona, what are your thoughts on what's currently happening on the political stage, all of these things here in America right now for our people?
One thing that we have to understand, Caleb, is, again, America was built on our backs for a purpose that does not serve us. The political spectrum, conservative, Republican, Democrat, it does not serve our interests. I don't want to be involved with trying to play on the playing field that serves other people's interests, that helps them to continue to maintain their competitive advantage over us. And we continue to participate in systems that have not done anything for us almost, right? What we should be doing is organizing ourselves in such way, politically, economically, socially, as such, that we could be able to have full autonomy and we could be the ones who are determining for us what is going to be our fate. I'm looking at the political spectrum. I'm looking at everything that's been taking place. I'm looking at what took place with Charlie Kirk. I'm looking at how President Trump is deploying ICE and all of these, federal agents into the heart of the city, to fight against crime. Where they going? They're not going. They're not going to the white neighborhoods. Although there's a lot of crime amongst that, that population. Where are these people being sent to? What is it? What is their responsibility? What is it that they're supposed to be doing? So we're looking at the political spectrum, and we're understanding right now that it's just a rerun of everything that we experienced in the past. It always comes back up, right? It always comes back around. And whenever things come back around and come back up, that means that you hadn't learned your lesson from the past. That means that it's a lesson that needs to be learned that has not been learned. And so until that lesson is learned, we're going to have to keep going back and experiencing that experience in a different generation. Until you have people in that generation who rise up to do whatever they've been called to do, to put us in position where we wouldn't have to be worried about all these systems and how they're operating, because we've established things for ourselves that allow us to be able to do whatever. If the world collapses around us, we're still good. That's the position that we need to be in. That if, peradventure, everything around us just collapses, we're still good. We have to ask ourselves that question. Are we in a position right now where we could be able to truly and honestly say that if the systems around us that we are totally dependent on collapse, will we be able to remain standing? Everybody would have to be honest with themselves and answer that question on their own. I'm not trying to say anything about that. And as I move around America, I'm noticing that people are not really saying that there's a political issue. They're not saying it's a social issue. What I'm hearing mostly is that there's a spiritual issue. There's a spiritual problem. Now, if there's a spiritual problem, according to what my teacher, the Honorable Ben Ammi, taught me, that means that one or two things, right? As far as the spiritual aspect, are we saying that there's not enough churches around? We need to build a few more churches. Is that going to solve our spiritual issue? Is that what we're saying? Are we saying that not enough people pray and we need to just organize? What does that mean? That means that there's a God component that is missing in what it is that we're doing. That means that we're continuing to fight in arenas that we can't win in because that's not our strength. And so long as we continue to fight on the strength or at the strength of our enemies, of our opposers, then we'll continue to lose. So if we realize that there is a spiritual issue, that means that there is a God component that does not exist there. If there is a God component that does not exist there, that means that we should be trying to, with all our heart, soul, and might, to insert that God component into our lives, into our society, into our being, to see how that could be able to assist us. What does that mean, that God component? Are we saying that that some esoteric being is just going to pop up out of the sky and think? No, when we say that we need to insert that God component, that means that we need to take all of those elements that are in alignment with the spiritual inclination and nature that is within us and begin to actualize those things, to become them. Yeah, when they say that ye are all God's children of the Most High God, that means that there's something that we have to become, that we have to embody, that we have to realize that that is the source of our strength. The source of our strength is the spiritual component, is the God Almighty. And it's not by chance that, our forefathers, when they were out there picking cotton, they were singing about the God element. It's not, by chance that wherever you look, you hear these, they call the gospel, the Negro spirituals, It's not by chance that we're talking about these things, and none of them actually refer to nothing political, nothing social, nothing economic. It refers to the spiritual component. The God idea is missing. That's what's missing. We're not talking about that. That doesn't even exist in no facet of our society. We're not even talking about that. In America, they say, "In God we trust." The president, as he's being inaugurated into office, he has to put his hand on the Bible, and then, so help me God. This is a God-forsaken country. But if these God-forsaken people, could be able to swear on the Bible, to use that as their fundamental principle, to have that as part of their constitution, but don't respect none of it at all, then how much more we as the children of God would have to have that component as a centralized figure in everything that we do? We haven't done that. That's what's missing, Caleb. I'm not worried about the politics. I'm not worried about the social situations. I'm not worried about the economic situation, because I know that these things can and will be figured out as soon as we bring in that missing component. Once God is involved in everything that we do, we then will be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We'll be able to see things changing in our favor. All of what we see around us, all the elements, the trees, the creation, everything is in submission to a universal law, that law that it was created under, but us. We've strayed from those universal principles that would put us in harmony with God, with creation, with the elements, and allow us to be able to remember in our minds all of those things that it caused us to be great people throughout the generations. It's all inside of us. I mean, Black Wall Street is inside of us. The children of Israel leaving Egypt is inside of us. King Solomon is inside of us. The prophets are inside of us. All we have to do is just call them back into memory. But we've been broken down so low that we don't even remember how great of a people we are and the type of power that we tapped into. And as soon as we realize that, we'll be able to see then that a different portal will be open for us to be able to walk through. But there's some prerequisites for us to have to do, first of all, before we could be able to gain access to those portals.
Prerequisites, I think about college instantly, because everybody has to take prerequisite courses. So what does that look like for our people before we even go into that portal? What should we do first as that prerequisite, to your point?
So as I said, the first thing would have to be that we return back to that spiritual element, to God, to the Father, to the one who created us, and understand what was the purpose of our creation. Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it. Then we were given dominion. After we did all of these things, now we have been given dominion over the fish of the sky, over the fowl of the sky, the fish of the fish of the waters, and all things creeping. That dominion came as a result of us being in alignment with something. Then we were given the responsibility to name them. But how can we name them if we didn't understand what the attributes are for each of these animals and others that we've been given the responsibility to name, right? And then how can the prophets be able to call unto God, and then he sends manna from the heaven, and then he sends us the sun in the daytime and the moon in the evening time to guide us. And then, Elijah calls, from the heavens, the fire to be able to consume everything. How could these things be possible? Moses part the Red Sea. Our people doing things that are unimaginable even at a very decadent state. How are these things possible? They're only possible by us being able to call on those elements. And in order for us to be able to call on those elements, we'd have to be in alignment with those elements. Mind, body, spirit. All three of these things coming together for a purpose that will be able to allow us to remember. So the first thing is aligning ourselves, realigning ourselves with the source of our existence, the source of our life, the source of living waters, right? We were given the breath of life, and then we became living beings. We need to realign ourselves with that breath of life once again. That's the first step. Once we've realigned ourselves with that breath of life once again, then we'll be able to call into action our responsibility once again to be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it. And then be given that dominion once again over everything that God has created. But we can't be given that in our current state at the moment. We are the greatest people on this planet. But we don't realize it because we are not aligned with who we are right now. It's like somebody pulled the plug on us. And so they pulled the plug on us, and now everything is dark. Everything is dark. But everything that is in the room as soon as the light turns on has always been there. It's not like something new just came, but the light was off. So we couldn't be able to recognize everything that's in the room because we can't see it. As soon as you turn that light back on, we see everything, and now we have a clear view to be able to walk in alignment once again with what we've been created for. We forgot what we came to earth for. It just seems like we just were born for what? Just to be here, just to work, and then after we work to make other people rich, then we die, and then it's just a continual process. We gotta struggle all through life for everything that we want. Everything got to be a fight. Everything is hard. Everything is, a challenge. That's not what we were created for. That's not that Kayla is not the essence of what we were created for. We weren't created and brought to this earth just to live a little bit, to spend a little bit of money, and then to die. I know that can't be. I know it can't be. I know it can be. But that's why realigning ourselves with the real source of our creation is important, because then nothing will be withheld from us. I mean, all of the fathers that we speak about, these people were, wealthy beyond measure. They weren't worried about, I need to go to the job in the morning, and that wasn't their worries. Their worries were, how can I sustain all of this? I have so much right now, and I need to be able to sustain it. How can I sustain that? Not that I don't have anything, I don't have nothing, and I need to find a way to be able to climb up out of this current condition. There's a way, but we've been sold a lie. We've been told, go in this direction. Continuously, go that way, go that way, go that way. And we've been going down the wrong road for so long, and we haven't stopped and reassessed our direction. It's time for us to reassess. It's time for us to look at the condition of our people wherever we are in the world, and to see where have we went wrong, and to understand how we could be able to get back on the right track by inserting that element that is the determining factor for us. Now, I don't know about other people now. Whatever it is that for them, let them do that. But for us, it's the God element. It's the God spirit. That's what's going to deliver us from this current condition. Nothing else has been able to work. I mean, we done tried every political persuasion possible. We done tried every economic component possible. We done jumped through 70,000 religions. We done tried as much as we can. All social organizations and such working, trying to find solutions within a system that is not in our favor. We didn't try all of that. It doesn't work. It does not work. So now let's try something that we haven't tried. My suggestion, I want to offer something else. Let's try God. Let's try the God of Israel. And let's see if he'll keep his promise to us, that he's going to walk alongside us, that he's going to grant us everything that we need, that he's going to cover us, that he's going to, let's try that. Now, if that doesn't work, then cool. You know, we can try everything else once again. Maybe it is, you know, that everything else does work and we just didn't go about it the right way. But this is my suggestion. Let's try God. Let's see if the God of Israel works. Now, if he don't come through for us, then he don't come through. Everything that I know about the God of Israel, the God that I serve, he's always been there, will be there, and he's waiting for us to take that first step. God does not help nobody who don't help themselves. So we can start moving in that direction, and then we'll get a push. But we have to start moving in that direction.
Indeed, brother. You know, seeing you with great young brothers. Christopher, right? Christopher, you know, talking to him, right? Talking about voting on a basic local scale. That is, to me, game changing. You know, starting things like that. Here you talk about being in D.C., right?
Yes, sir.
Talking to the Black Caucus, all of these things, right? How do we start to make real, I would say, nation building change to where we aren't just walking around, to your point, going to work, barely paying our bills, barely getting by, and just existing, opposed to, okay, hey, let's start building and flourishing as a people as well. How do we start doing those things?
So I want to use the motto of the Village of Peace. By the way, my brother, he created this coloring book on page 30. Is it page 30? 29. Okay. We have the Village of Peace here. Well, it starts here with the temple, and then it goes into the Village of Peace, right? It was a coloring book for our people. I want to use the Village of Peace model as a working model for what it is that we're able to establish, right? So what we did in Dimona, in the village, is that, first of all, we gathered like-minded people that have a desire to see us in a better position than what we were before, that are interested in establishing an alternative life, an alternative environment that will be able to allow us to be fully autonomous, to do everything that we need to do for ourselves that is in alignment with the principles that I've just mentioned to you right now, that are peace, love, harmony, family, equality, and obviously led by the Spirit of God. That all of those components are what makes up, you know, this society, right? Build that society or whatever with like-minded people who are interested in that. But building a society is not enough. Now we have to gather people in a geographical location, right, in communities, right, where these people now could be able to live in accordance with these principles together, right? Because each one teach one, we helping each other, you know. Now we're living in close proximity together, working together in order to be able to ensure that not only is this, you know, a mental thing or a concept that is in the mind, but it's something that is practical, right? That we could be able to actually see. Somebody asks you, look, what does that look like? In practice, you have to have something that you can point at. We don't want to hear a lot of talking about what you think and how you feel. Show me something. People are, you know, visual people today. Show me something, right? So you establish that type of environment now with people who are like-minded, who are operating in accordance with these principles. Then we implement institutions, right? Institutions that could be able to now speak to these things that we have dedicated ourselves to in terms of the platform that we're going to be standing on. Okay, so you have institutions now, for example, as a school that is necessary for the development of the minds of our children and to insert into them the things that are necessary to ensure that not only are they in alignment with everything that we represent, but that they also have practical tools that they could be able to use going into this world, and they have what they say, put on the full armor of God, right? They're going out there into this world covered, knowing how they need to operate, how they need to maneuver. You know, it's not intelligent that when you come up, you know, against a police officer, that you can tell that he's antagonistic, to meet him with that same energy. That's probably not the way that you should go. You know what I mean? We can teach that to our children. It's okay. It's okay to be humble. Let's start with that. Let's start with some manners at school. Then we'll get to the reading, writing, and arithmetic. Let's start with these fundamental principles. Let's start where in the morning we start a day off with prayer, with the recitation of the Ten Commandments. Let's do these things. Let's get these things as part of a regular curriculum in the lives of our children, of our youth coming up. Because train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's older, he will not depart from it. It's not that he just won't depart from the way that he was taught, but he would actually strengthen that by being able to confirm that everything that he's been taught is absolutely correct. And now he's able to take all of that and implement it in the world, where he's now become a beacon of light to people who are around him, who haven't come from that same type of environment. And so you come into a room that is dark, you don't have to say nothing because you are light. And even that small light could be able to now light up the whole place, right? Let's start with that, right? We have a school. Let's go from a school also, let's go to a birthing center where we have 1,000 children who are born natural birth inside of the community itself. Mortality rate compared to the world is non-existent. Then let's go to dietary standards, right? That could be able to put us in alignment with something that'll holistic lifestyle is not just about what you eat. It's about what you do. It's about what you think. It's about the environment that you're within. So let's establish then a holistic lifestyle that will include foods that are revitalizing, right? Plant-based diet is what we do, right? That are revitalizing fruits, vegetables, and everything else that we know that is given to our bodies the necessary nutrients that we need to be able to function properly, right? To be able to eradicate a lot of those sicknesses and ailments and diseases that our people are suffering from in the world. Let's get away from that. Let's practice preventative medicine so that we won't have to go to the hospital, because we already know what they're going to give us at the hospital. And it ain't did us no good up until now. So let's see what we can be able to do in order to prevent ourselves from going there, right? So we'll establish that. Let's see if working out 3 times a week, every week, is something that we could be able to do, to sweat. Let's see if we could, to get all those toxins out of us. Let's see if we can get a massage once a month, a deep tissue massage to ensure that, that our blood is continuing to flow internally. Right. Then let's see if we could be able to cut down the intake of salt, right? Because we understand the detrimental effect that salt has on the body. So let's cut it down by 50%. How are we going to do that? We're going to have salt days and no salt days. So every other day, we're not going to eat salt at all, right? Then we cut down our intake of salt by 50%. Then let's implement an entire week every quarter of the month, right, every quarter of the year, where we're not going to consume anything but raw foods, but live foods. We're not going to cook it. We just live foods. Then on top of that, let's put another week where we're not going to eat nothing that has anything with sugar in it for an entire week. Like let's do these fundamental things, right? Let's ensure that we have a ministry of information that is able to filter information that is coming in, to leave all the nonsense on the outside, because the internet today is so saturated with stuff. You have no idea what's true, and you have the freedom of speech, so you can say whatever you want to say, whether it's right, wrong, in between. Really doesn't matter. You can say whatever you want to say. Now you're putting out false information, misinformation, disinformation, and now you got everybody confused. So let's have a ministry of information, that the information that's coming in could be vetted. We can be able to confirm this stuff. We can be able to prove the stuff that's coming in, and not, just have everybody jumping from pillar to post, trying to understand what's correct, what isn't. Now you're driving yourself crazy because some information came in right now and they said, you know what, Caleb? It's terrible to drink water, but our bodies are 70% water. But science says that if you drink water too much, then your body won't react to it. Man, what you talking about? Let's get that out of there. We could be able to vet information. And then let's establish also a ministry of economics, right? Where we could be able to establish internal businesses that could be able to serve the purposes of what we represent, that could be able to generate income for us, to allow us to be self-sufficient, so that when we come to the table and we come in to negotiate, we coming from a position of power, because we're not coming to beg for anything. We're coming to suggest and to offer partnerships on the basis of what we have proven to be something that is needed in the world today. Let's do these things. Let's put these things in some type of, let's see if we could be able to say, okay, well, in this environment, the way to handle issues with your brother is that before the night comes, before the sun goes down, y'all need to talk it out. Y'all need to talk it out. If we need to get some elders involved, let's get some elders involved. Have a council of people, of elders who are able to, because they've been there before, right? Who are able to sit down and look at all matters and to judge based on how, the principles that we represent, based on truth, based on honesty, no bearing false witness of your neighbor and all that kind of stuff. We need some witnesses. Who was there that knows? Let's get away from he say, she said. I'm just saying, all of these things, if we can be able to implement these things as a beginning, let's start this. Let's start there. Let's start by talking about, the importance of us having each other's backs. That now we've become family. So my daughter is your niece, and she knows that you're her uncle. So most likely now, I'm depending on you to ensure that my daughter is on the straight and narrow, but not to be trying to do other things with her. I need to be able to trust you. I need an environment that when I'm going to work, that you're not trying to get my wife. I need to know that, yeah, Caleb got it. I need to know that if my children are out at late wee hours of the night, then somebody has an eye on them. This is the idea. This is the environment that we've created in Dimona, in Israel, right? As a start. Now, are there flaws? Sure. Are there things that we could still continue to work harder on? Absolutely. Have there been mistakes made? Absolutely. Are there still challenges that we experience? Absolutely. But who else could say that they've done this? With all of the other things that people could be able to mention, I'm sure that people can be able to pull out 101,000 things, and you don't have to. I'll do it for you. But who has actually done it? We've done it. We've taken that model and continue to work on it more and more and more. Let's use that as a foundation. Let's use that to build our community. Let's use those few things. This is how we can be able to clean up the brothers and the sisters on the streets. This is how we could be able to show the importance of accountability, because when you're in community, you have to be accountable to somebody. Like, you can't just do whatever it is that you want to do and then you don't owe nobody no explanations. That don't work. In this world, probably. But in the world that we're talking about, you have to be given some accountability. You have to give some answers to some things. Some stuff is not in alignment. Bruh, we're going to call you to the session to ask you about these things. And so this is the type of environment that we could create, that we can create. This is what we've managed to do in the Village of Peace in Dimona. And so we're going to continue to work on in the Village of Peace of Dimona. But I'm just saying that we've laid the foundation, we through trial and error. There are a lot of things I'm sure that people could be able to also add to it. Some things we may need to take out that are no longer relevant right now, right? That we could be able to now to start to adjust to the times that we're living in. But nonetheless, the blueprint exists. Let's try to use the things that already exist as opposed to reinventing the wheel and then losing confidence, losing interest, losing faith in our ability to be able to do so because of the challenges that we're coming up against. We went through a lot of those things already so that you won't have to go through that. Ain't that what Jay-Z said? I went through that so you won't have to go through that. right? So learn from my experiences, the good and the bad. Take away from it whatever you can take away from it in order to be able to build something that could be sustainable for us wherever we are. I want to use the Village of Peace model. I think it's a successful model. I think it's one that we could be able to actually see how it's impacted the lives of our people wherever we are in the world. And I believe in that model. Is it the only model? Is it the ultimate model? No. But at least let's use this blueprint as a start. So that's what I suggest. That's my suggestion to anybody who is interested in community building and sustainability. Let's use something that already exists and build on that.
Hey, that's powerful, brother. And, still staying on Dimona, right? Here in America, we can see that things are bubbling, right? For Black Americans here, how do we bridge that gap between us and Dimona? Like, how do we start traveling out there more, actually being, boots on the ground and building that true family connection? Because that's needed during these times, because we don't know what's going to happen years from now. And, I think for us just to have that tight connection is so needed because you never know. But how do you feel about that?
We've had people actually come up and visit the community. It's wide open. Well, my suggestion would be at this time is that we may need to start working together with organizations, churches, and otherwise, right? Alongside agencies in Israel and outside of Israel to be able to create, because they already have a lot of these trips coming over there. Did you know that every year, this was a statistic that I came up on, every year you have at least 1,000 African Americans coming to Israel? Did you know that? Every year, there are various organizations that are bringing them up, and but these organizations are not putting them in touch with us. And it's not because they don't know that we exist. It's not because they don't know we exist, but that's just not an interest of theirs. So we have to find out then, what are these organizations and what is their interest? And why aren't they bringing our people down to Dimona to visit us? But while we're doing that, let's establish our own. Right? Let's get in touch with these organizations, with churches and mosques and and whatever else, and HBCUs and everything, because that's what we're working on, Chris. HBCUs to start to organize trips coming to Israel, so that we can be able to expose them to the Afrocentricity of Israel. So when we take you to the places or whatever, you'll be able to experience the places from and through our lens. So when you walk through Jerusalem, you'll be able to imagine the people who are walking through Jerusalem that look like you. So when you see the Afro-Bedouins, and you see the Afro-Palestinians, and you see the Beta Israel Ethiopian community, and you see the African Hebrew Israelite community, you will be able to see where do you fit in this entire story. But it's our responsibility then to organize these things, because if we don't organize them, then other people from the outside, they will determine then what and how will be what would be done and what can't be done. Right? They're the ones who are responsible for the schedule. They're the ones who can determine what we can do and what we can't do. So it's our responsibility now, and I would just suggest that let's start reaching out, and that's something we're working on now. Let's start reaching out to organize these trips coming to Israel for people who are interested not only in visiting Israel, but to be able to experience. We're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of our people who are some type of denomination, some religion. At the end of the day, connecting to Jerusalem, connecting to Israel, right? Going through that Bible. And even the people who are not, just spiritually conscious people, right? But who recognize the importance of Jerusalem, or the importance of Israel, the importance of Dimona in the story of our people. Let's organize them so that we can be able to take them up there to visit, to experience it for real. Not just talk about, not go to Sunday morning classes and church and all of those things and talk about how Jesus walked the waters, and talk about what happened in Jericho, and talk about Nazareth, and talk about Jerusalem, and talk about, Eilat and Beersheba, and we hear the stories of what took place, what happened in these places. But as far as we're concerned, these things are far away from us. They're not real. No, we need to make these things real. But we have to do it ourselves. And my suggestion would be, and this is something we're already starting to work on now, we have a program. It's called the Sacred Visitation. Right, this is 3 days, between 3 to 5 days, depending on the time that we have. Between 3 to 5 days, we're hitting all of the spots. We're starting in most likely in the south, Dimona, and then Beersheba, and all these other places where we could be able to see what took place there, Telerad and all those other places. Then we're going up a little north. Right, let's go to Jericho, Jerusalem area. Then let's go all the way up north. Right, let's go up there to Tiberias. You know what I mean? Let's go up there to Nazareth. Let's go, and then let's come back around to the Jordan River. Go down to the Jordan Valley. Then let's go down to the Salt Sea, which is the lowest place on earth. So you go from Jerusalem, which sits on mountains, down into the lowest place on. You know how amazing that is. And then you see our people all over the land. And people who can be able to tell you stories about how we've been there for thousands of years, counting back. You don't hear those stories, you don't see these things, but this is something that we can do. And we're doing it. But it's going to take a little more time. It's going to take a little more effort. You were talking earlier about the patience. We just have to keep working at it. Yeah. We have to keep chipping at it to organize these organizations and these peoples that are interested in being able to assist us so that our people won't have to come out of pocket. Let's put a budget to the side, organize a budget that is part of these churches, part of these organizations, right? That we say we will allocate XYZ amount of funds as part of all the activities that we have in the church, in the mosques, in the organizations, in the HBCUs. These funds will be allocated every year for a trip going to the Holy Land to experience our brothers and sisters over there. That's something we can do. That's something we can do, and we will do it.
Hearing that, brother, then, do you feel like the Black American church is doing enough? Because even from seeing the whole Charlie Kirk situation, I saw how some pastors spoke on it, some didn't. And then also, to your point, growing up, I remember our church, members, they would always go out and travel to the Holy Land, all of that, but they didn't go to Dimona. Do you feel like the Black church is doing enough right now?
In order for us to be able to assess if enough is being done, we have to look at the results. And the results should speak for themselves and say, no, enough is not being done. Because if enough was being done, then you would be seeing tens, if not hundreds of thousands of our people coming to Israel, to Dimona, to visit. We would be seeing how so many organizations and churches and otherwise are pulling from the concept of what the Village of Peace have established, and you will be able to see some of these things being implemented here in certain places. I mean, you will see it at a large scale. You know what I mean? Now, maybe it's partially our problem that we haven't really been organizing it so much. And the Black church probably have not really put that as a main focus on their agenda. But we need to do it. This is something that needs to be done. If the church is really interested, number one, in making practical everything that they talk about every Sunday. Now, if you want to sell the pie in the sky bye-bye after you die and all those things, and just make it seem like, all these things are far away from reality for your people, then and I'm not going to do about that, But if you really want to bring it down to earth, because thy kingdom come on earth as it is on heaven, that's right, then we could be able to actually start to organize in a way where these things then will become more practical for people. You know how amazing that'll be, that all year you're speaking about Yeshua, Jesus, and you're speaking about Israel, and you're speaking about everything that happens, or been happening in that area, and how he turned water to wine, and the communion, and all of these things, and then you go there. You go there, you walk these streets where the people were going up to the temple. Today is not just today generally, but I'm saying this season is a season of the High Holy Days. The High Holy Days. So you have the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets. Then you have the Day of Atonement. Then you have the Feast of Tabernacles. Then later on, we're gonna have the other feasts, right? Imagine carving out that one time a year, because it says that 3 times a year we should make pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Let's get it one time a year. You choose. We can do it on Passover. We can do it in this season right now. We can do it during the Feast of Weeks. We can just do it in the summer. Whenever you want to. We can implement these things in real life. Every Muslim.
Yep.
Huh?
Takes a Hajj.
At least one time in your lifetime. Every Muslim. If every Israelite, every conscious person, every one of us in the church, out of the church, people who know who we are, people who don't know who we are, if we start to target our people and say, look, we have to make pilgrimage to Dimona, to Jerusalem, to Israel. I'm not asking you, you don't have to come 1,000 times. One time in your life. You have people who went through an entire lifetime and would kill you about Jesus. You know what I mean? Sang all of the songs about Joshua fought the battles of Jericho. And, every other song, swing low, sweet chariot coming forth to carry me home. And every one of those songs, but they never went. And the place exists. Now, if it didn't exist, I could understand that. I got you. All right, no problem. We just have to sing about it and talk about it. Not a problem. But it exists. It's here. It's here. It is here. If our brothers and sisters who are going up to Mecca can make sure that and I'm sure that most of them probably went more than one time, but all of them make it their business to go once a year. Now, you know what? There's more Christians in the world than there is Muslim. You gonna tell me that all of these...
How ironic. How ironic.
They gonna do it. So you got Christians, you got Jews, you got Hebrew Israelites.
You got Catholics.
You got Catholics. You got just conscious people.
Yeah.
You trying to tell me that we can't organize, as a start, right? As a start, 20,000 people a year to go home.
Wow.
20,000 people a year to go home. Out of the billions of people and the millions of our people who submit to these, we can't organize 20,000 of them to go home. You know what? I'm about to drop a bomb right here on your show. We're gonna work in order to organize at least within the next year. We're gonna try to get at least, and I'm about to put this out there for Matthew, for Chris. 5 HBCUs. 5 HBCUs that we're going to start working on in order to see, as a matter of fact, to make it their business to get to Israel by 2027. We're in 2025 now, going to the end. This next year is going to be dedicated to 5 HBCUs that we're going to get to Israel. Whatever the amount is, we're going to get them to Israel within the next year. 2027, I'm putting it out there. That's going to be the work that we got to do.
Study abroad program.
Something.
Yeah.
Something. We're going to organize that.
Yeah.
So we're going to get 5 HBCUs, right? And we're going to get in touch with 5 churches and work with 5 churches to be able to get their people over to the Holy Land. Now, we can make that happen. We can make that happen. 20,000 people in a year. That means that if we're looking at it on average, if we can get about 2,000 people or so, then that's not a lot of people. People are going all over the world all the time.
Everybody's on cruises, flights. You right? Yeah.
We can do that, and it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Some of these mega churches, man, they got buku money.
Yeah.
We can't carve out $3 million. We can't carve out $3 million real quick to say that this is going to be going to the church folk who want to come or who want to go. Because I didn't heard churches who went down to Egypt. Yeah. They didn't went down to the Caribbean islands. I mean, they didn't. So it's not like they haven't been nowhere. Yeah. Now, so they've been out, but they just haven't been home. So let's organize 5 HBCUs, and let's work with 5 churches. That by 2027, we could already start seeing the flow of people going into the land. That'll be the foundation, and then we'll just build on that foundation. Because once people come back and share their experiences, right, then I'm sure that it's going to spread out to more, right? But in those churches, I don't know, maybe you may send 100 scouts real quick to go check this out, see what it's about. And when they come back, oh yeah, it's legit. It's legit, Pastor. All right, bet. So this is going to be something regular now, right, for the church, that every year we're going to have a significant amount of our people going to the land to come back, right, and to share their experiences about what they experienced in the land. We've been talking about Jesus. We've been talking about the Holy Land. We've been talking about the Promised Land. We've been talking about the promised people. Now let's go there. Organize that. That's what we're going to work on. For the next year, by 2027, we want to already start seeing that we have 5 HBCUs who've already allocated funds for 2027, that they're going to bring some of their college students over there to be able to see what's taking place. And we're going to get 5 churches to be able to have some people come over there to visit so that we can be able to make this a regular thing.
Tangible change.
Yes, sir.
That's a mic drop right there. Yes, brother, you've been awesome. I probably only got like 2 more questions for you. On your page, I love seeing, how you show actual Israel, showing here's the history. These mountains, that takes you towards Egypt, this takes you towards there. And I'm like, wow, this is an actual real place. Brother, what's actually happening in Israel right now? Because I think that us in America, all we see is CNN. We see this where you're seeing bombs, all of those things. But then I'm like, Brother Ashriel, he's in Israel right now chilling. What exactly is going on in Israel right now during these times?
So, as we know, there's an unfortunate war that's been going on now for about 2 years. Been a lot of people affected by it. You got a lot of lives that have been taken. But I'm thinking about the traumatic experiences and how that's going to psychologically affect the people in Gaza and the people in Israel, right? We are there and experiencing everything on the grounds. But when we look at it, we're looking at, because by me being here in America, and I'm listening to the news, and I'm seeing how things are being framed, right? It lacks context. It lacks understanding. And I'm sure that people are going to say, no, this is what it is. It's clear, and they start throwing out all type of terms or whatever to describe everything that's taking place on that end. And then they start talking about indigeneity and who is what. My only question at that juncture is, because I realized that what people were talking about is so academic, right? That you could clearly be able to tell the difference between people who've experienced what they're talking about and people who've heard somebody say something, and then they're just regurgitating the information. And if you go a little deeper with them, then you could clearly be able to understand that they wouldn't be able to get along any further, right? Because all they know is to regurgitate these couple of lines. And after you get past those 3 lines, then we quiet. We ain't got nothing to say. Why? Because you don't really understand what's taking place, right? You're talking about indigeneity, you're talking about Israel and Palestine and Palestinians and Israelis. And so I just have to ask some simple questions. Who are Israelis? When you say Israelis, who are Israelis? The Israelis, the Israelis. No, I don't know. Who are the Israelis? The Europeans. Okay, I got you. But 75% of the population are not Europeans. Who are the Jews that we're talking about? You know, the Jews. Who? Talk to me. Because you have Jews from India, you have Jews from Ethiopia, you have Jews from Morocco, you have Jews from Yemen, you have Jews from Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, Syria. Who is it that you're referring to exactly when we talk about Israel or Israelis? Well, 20% of the society are Arabs who identify as Israelis. So who are we talking about exactly? And who are we talking about in regards to the Palestinians? Because within the Palestinian society, the great majority of the people who identify today as Palestinian, this is not an ethnic group. You have Afro-Palestinians, you have European Cherkessian Palestinians, you have those who migrated from the other regions in the area looking for jobs and stuff under the Ottoman Empire and then under the British Empire. And then later on, they decided they wanted to become one unit, a nationalistic unit, for the purpose of fighting politically, but not because they identify as a nation or as a peoplehood. So who is it that we're actually talking about? How point them out for me so we can be able to understand. People can't do that. So it's hard to talk to people who don't have the foundation, right? You don't have the fundamental knowledge about these things. Yes, we could all agree on the fact that we should not be seeing people who are in these conditions in Gaza right now. It's a tragedy. It's terrible. We should have never seen what happened on October 7th. We should have never seen everything that's been happening for the last 100 years. But the narratives, though, are so distorted to a point where they leave you in position of a lack of understanding of the realities, because they know that you are not going to go and do your own homework. So they're going to tell you whatever they tell you. This is the same media that says all the despicable things about our people. So now you're going to believe them when they... Bruh. These are the same anchors. These are the same establishments. These are the same channels that say things about us that we know is a lie. Now, when they're talking about something outside of this area, now it becomes the truth. No, absolutely not. And besides that, most people, and me and Chris were talking about this before, most people are not even aware and familiar with who, like you said, who your local councilman is, yeah, who the mayor is in the city, who the congressmen, who your state reps, who your council people are, who's the people that's responsible for, for I don't know, who's the chief of police out here, who's the sheriff, who's responsible for cleaning up the streets. You don't even know that, but you know about what's going on 7,000 miles away from here in the most complicated place on earth. You know all about that. But you can't tell me who is the chief of police that is responsible for your region. I can't believe you. You know that you don't know. You read something, you saw something, you was on TikTok a little bit or whatever, and that's cool. I got that. I understand that. But the situation is so much more complex to a point where what we need to do, and this is what I do, let's focus on the things that we have the ability to affect and to change. If America went to war with Iraq, with Afghanistan, with Korea, and the average person, there's nothing you can do about that. Do you really think that people who are living in Israel, everybody who's have a way to be able to affect the policies of the government besides going back to elections? And then once they get in there, they do whatever they want to do anyways. It happened all over the world. Ain't nothing we can do about that. It's a terrible feat. And ain't nothing that Palestinians could do when Hamas or the Palestinian Liberation Organization or Fatah get into power in 2006 and haven't had elections since then. And they were supposed to be getting in there for one term and then going back to elections every 4 years, but they hadn't been back to elections in 20 years. What you gonna do with them? Now, I know that you don't support a lot of what's taking place there. I know that you don't support a lot of these organizations, but you better not say it, though. Because you got family that's on the line. You got these organizations that are because, they've become totalitarian, basically. So they have control over all of the resources. They have control over everything. So if you are an intelligent person, then most likely you wouldn't put yourself or your family in position to be deprived of anything that is fundamentally necessary for you to be able to exist, because you speaking out against something that you know and I know is wrong. Your own experiences. You can't talk about that because of your condition and how that's going to affect you. So you haven't heard the authentic voices from God. I speak to Afro-Palestinians all the time. So I know the real deal internally. Don't talk to me about what the Palestinians, don't, because Afro-Palestinians living in communities where they don't have access to running water and to electricity and to lights, and because the current government don't see them as part of the Palestinian community, the Palestinian society, because they're black people. Don't talk to me about that. Don't tell me about Israel and the geopolitics of Israel and how the certain people are indigenous and people are not indigenous or whatever. When the great majority of the people who are there and who've been there have migrated there, whether they migrated from Europe or migrated from, Arabian countries, Jews migrating from wherever they coming looking for jobs. The majority of them came during the British Mandate. And you're going to tell me that they've been there for thousands of years. Don't talk to me about that, please. What we can talk about are things that we have control over. What we have control over is community building. We worked on that in Israel, in Dimona, right? We've established ourselves in our homeland, right? We're looking to take these things and to impact our people in other places in the world, right? We're working on putting our hands together, right, to be able to provide whatever is missing for our people, because we're not getting it from the Israeli government and we're not getting it from the Palestinian governments. That's what we can talk about. I'm not talking to you about no geopolitics in that region, and I know that it's about to be a waste of my time and yours. I don't want to go there with you. This is my posture with our people. I don't want to go there with you. Talk to me on this level, on the things that we're able to impact, because you have the sphere of influence, right? The things that you're able to, and then you have the others where, you voted, you said a couple of things, but there's nothing you can be able to do to be able to really force people to do whatever it is that you want them to do. They're already in positions. That's the conversation that we need to be having on how to affect change in a way that we are able to affect change. The things that we have control over, and then begin to spread out from there.
Come on, brother. This was absolutely fire, dog. You killed this conversation. Very last question. Is Babylon falling? How do you feel about that?
My leader, Ben Ammi, and I have to always refer to his teachings because this is the foundation on which I stand. Now, when he taught about, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the last days, when we spoke about that, or when he taught about that, he taught that when you saw the rains coming, the rains didn't have nothing to do with the end of the world. The rains came to wash away things after the end of the world. But what determined the end of the world was an equation. There was apathy towards the word of God. There were people that were doing every imaginable evil there is. There was a total detachment from every principle that was represented in that land. When the rains came, they had to come to clear everything out to be able to now produce something that will be once again in alignment with what was initially supposed to be. When we talk about Babylon has fallen, or is fallen, or will fall, right? There's an equation to be able to see where we stand. What is it that we should be looking for? Are we looking for all these buildings to start falling around us and then, apocalyptic, and then, you start seeing like dinosaurs running through and everything? Is that what we expecting to see? No, that was never going to be it. When we talk about Babylon has fallen or is fallen, we're talking about a society that has been built on wickedness, that has caused so much death and destruction, that has been anti-God in every aspect. We're talking about that society then being weakened to a point. You remember, Nebuchadnezzar's. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. We're talking about getting all the way down to the feet where it's mixed with clay and copper. It's weak, right? But the fall of Esau is the rise of Jacob. Those two things have to happen simultaneously. The system is going to remain until you bring an alternative that is either just as strong or stronger. So I'm not expecting nothing to happen around that we don't implement, right? Babylon, or this idea, or what it represents, is only going to, and I'm talking about this Western, liberal, democratic, capitalistic society that's all about exploitation, all about degradation, that has caused the worst humanitarian crisis in the world, that has been terrible towards everybody who's not from a specific milieu of people. These are the people. This system is not going to continue. It's not sustainable. It can't continue. The only reason why it has continued is because the alternative that has been presented has not been one that we have been fully invested in. And so when we were speaking earlier about what can we be able to do to cause us to rise above our current conditions, we have been participating in the maintenance of this society. We're holding it up. I watched this. I saw this picture one time, right? That there was a chessboard.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Body's just playing on
Right.
top of his back.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
So now what?
All he has to do is stand up. Yeah.
All he has to do is stand up. That's why the rise of Jacob is the fall of Esau, because when you're on a seesaw, the only way the one who's at the top could be able to come down is that the one who's at the bottom would have to stand up. It's our time to stand up, my brother. All we have to do is just stand up. Stand up and do what it is that we know that we need to do. Stand up and be the people who we're supposed to be. Stand up and be proud of who we are. Stand up and implement a new world order. They talk about new world order. We can talk about new world order too. And we can implement that new world order that is an order that, because, they say that when the reason why European people are afraid of African people ever getting into a position of power in the world is that they're afraid that we may do to them what they did to us. But we're not that type of people. We're not that type of people. Yeah, we may have some infighting or whatever on the continent, but we can get along. We when there's, just enough, we're going to make sure that everybody get it. This capitalistic mindset that, it's a zero-sum game, that either I get it or you get it, that's not of the African mind. That's not anything that comes from us. That's from the outside. So we need to implement African ideas on the African continent and in the African mind for African people wherever we are in the world. That's the way we're going to be able to have Babylon falling. Otherwise, you're going to be reading about Babylon falling for the next 1,000 years. They're going to be telling you, get your bags ready and some stuff, right? You're going to be sitting next to the door, not being able to pay your rent, not being able to leave your home, stressed out, family feuds, and all of these things because you didn't even understand what this meant when it was told to you that Babylon is fallen and we need to be able to be prepared to present an alternative, or at least what does it mean that Babylon is fallen. So absolutely, these institutions are not going to hold longer. They can't. It's not sustainable. We're looking at it all over the world. But the only reason why they're not falling is because we're holding them up. My suggestion is let's just let them fall. Watch out. Get out the way. Let them fall. And then we can get back to our rightful position. Because right now, wherever you look at our people all over the world, we are in a degraded position. We are the scum of the earth, basically. We're at the bottom. Not because we are the worst of the societies, but because we are only ones who've forgotten our calling. The devil knows what he's supposed to be doing. And he's doing an incredible job. You got to give it to him. And we're not talking about no chump here. We're talking about the same, when we talk about the star of the morning, Lucifer, this was an archangel who when he left, when he fell out of heaven, he took 2/3. You're not taking 2/3 of nothing unless you have some significant power, influence that is unimaginable. That means that that 1/3 was left there, and I don't even know what their condition was when they were left. But to take 2/3 along with you,
Turning from God, you turn your back from God. Yeah, so to
turn
your
your back from God.
Yeah, you're right.
You take 2/3 along with you, and most likely these 2/3 were not people who were, unintelligent. You know what I mean? People who were just on the lower scale of society. My leader Ben Ammi calls him an evil genius. He's a master deceiver, a master. And the only way you could be able to deceive somebody that well, you would have to know everything they know and more. And then on top of that, you would have to establish institutions that will continue to shape and mold the minds of our people in that way that could be able to keep them on that path that is a path that is in direct opposition to everything that we're supposed to represent. That's the only way you can be able to do that. You can't do it by standing on the street corners. You can't do it by going inside of places and hollering at people. You would have to establish institutions that this is part of the curriculum. You coming up here so I can brainwash you and turn you into what I need you to be able to continue to represent my interests on this planet. Satan has done it incredibly.
Ashriel Moore, brother. This was phenomenal conversation. On the way out, where can everybody find the book, Chosen Ones, the coloring book, and also be in contact with you about, traveling to Dimona, how we can support, stay in touch with you as well on social media?
Chris, tell me where can...
Instagram bio, HBCU Inc. Website,
HBCUinc.org.
Yeah, so you can get the book in the Instagram bio of HBCUinc.org.
Mm-hmm.
And you can maintain communication with me on Instagram through Ashriel Moore,
Yeah.
ASHRIEL MOORE, or via email MOORE and then ASHRIEL@gmail.com.
It was an honor, brother. Look, you already know anytime
Love
that
you,
you
brother.
touch down here
Yes,
in
sir.
Atlanta, always come here, bro. It was an honor. But y'all make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tap in with this great brother, bro. But thank y'all, man, for always showing love. Blessed be your host, Caleb Smith. Until next time, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
We just go take like 5 pictures of you.
Let's do it, Doc.
Off guard.